Welcome to the Daily Inanity. I'm Brand, and today we're going to talk about common sense, what normal is, being civilized, being human, how that all relates to the world we live in, what we think is right and wrong. So, for example, if a man calls up a producer from a news station and tells him, hey, listen, today me and my buddies, we're going to grab all of our weapons, we're going to put on some military uniforms, and we're going to put on hoods, masks, so nobody can see our faces, and we're going to go into an office building, and we're going to take a lady from there. And we're going to take her out to an abandoned warehouse, and we're just going to abuse her and abuse her and abuse her. But don't worry, it's my ex-wife, so she deserves it. And while you're there, you can go ahead and film. You can even interview her if you want to, right? So I guess, yeah, me and you, we would consider that to be wrong. But let's see how CNN feels about that. Watch this clip. It's about 2 minutes long. I want to put it all out there so I can get into the discussion afterward. So get through the clip, and then we'll discuss it afterward.
So, Seb, you had this remarkable opportunity now to meet with, to speak with these captured soldiers up close. They were upset by the civilian casualties. One soldier telling you, and I just want to read this quote of what they said to you, it was a horrifying fact, not just because it is a crime, it's vandalism. You cannot forgive such things. To bomb a maternity ward?
Well, Erin, I was able to speak to them one-to-one after a press conference on Friday, and I can say honestly that they sounded remorseful to me. They sounded regretful for what had happened. But I want to start by saying initially that what the Ukrainians are doing here is incredibly controversial. They are violating one of the international laws, which is on human rights. It's the Geneva Convention, which talks about not making prisoners of war items of public debate. And that is clearly what is happening here, not just from the three that I spoke to, but all of the others who've been paraded.
As you point out, even talking to them, I understand, is controversial. That's why we're not showing their faces, and you're putting quotes and choosing not to show the video. Mm-hmm. But they told you this treatment has been acceptable. They've offered us food and drink. They offered medical treatment. Did the soldiers, Seb, give you any impression that they were speaking under duress?
I didn't get that feeling. I mean, look, let's be honest. There were Ukrainian security intelligence officials and officers in the room. They were wearing balaclavas. They had AK-47s. They were loaded. But there was nothing to suggest that what they were saying was scripted in any way. I found what they had to say to be genuinely very compelling.
Yes, so that sounds like a very good excuse for having committed a crime. Well, I showed up, I participated, but I'm not going to show you the video. So I must not be guilty, and I'm going to go ahead and profit from and just tell you everything about it. Yeah, right. Wrong is wrong. It's wrong for anyone to do this. So I don't get this glorification of, well, we're violating the law, but because the guy's really, really bad, he deserves it. No, come on. First off, I've got to rewind a little bit here and say that we all know what region, what conflict CNN is talking about, right? I'm not mentioning the conflicting countries here. For several reasons. This video is not about the conflict itself. It's not about the players in the conflict. This video is entirely about CNN and their willing participation in war crimes. What country it is, doesn't matter. So that's number one reason why I'm not going into specifics. I've blotted out any mention whatsoever. I have just made sure that the names of the countries don't appear. And as well, you will not hear the names of those countries come over these lips. And second reason being is because a certain platform, the one I'm using right now, has put out a policy that basically says the credible media, i.e. these yo-yos at CNN that have no problem going out and filming crimes and then bragging about it. Anyway, so these credible news agencies can report on it all they want to on this platform simply because they're credible. And anyone else that attempts to, it's not going to get pushed. It's going to get thrown way down the algorithm. So that's the second reason. Third reason being is that if I do discuss the actual conflict itself and my thoughts on what is happening, what could be a means to achieve peace, then it could be misconceived as my spreading misinformation, which I'm obviously not. I have my own thoughts, my own opinions, and that's all it is. Thoughts and opinions. As a viewer, you have the ability to weigh what I say and evaluate for yourself whether what I say makes sense. I have some evidence in the form of video here that illustrates my point, but in no way am I saying it's a fact, but it's definitely something that any mature person, any sensible person could consider and say, why would they do that? So, back to the reporting now. Or should I say, back to the analysis. So let's first discuss what the producer had said about being very controversial. There's no controversy. The Geneva Convention was ratified in 1950 as a result of World War II atrocities committed against prisoners of war, which both sides of this conflict, members of their armed services suffered greatly as a result of. So if anyone should respect why the Geneva Convention set aside these laws protecting prisoners of war, you would think it'd be both sides in this conflict. There's no controversy. It's very straightforward. And what it says exactly is that prisoners of war should not be made items of public debate. It doesn't say they shall not be videotaped. Video was in its very rough forms in 1950. During 1945, during the Second World War, video footage was extremely rare, and it was highly unlikely that any of the sides were going to use video at that time anyway, so it really wasn't even consideration of the Geneva Convention at the time. So it was more about public display, about making prisoners of war feel that they were doing something other than what they were told to do. Because these were conscripts and they were taken from their homes, thrown into a war, and made to go fight. So the intention of the Geneva Convention is that you're not going to hold guilty the people that really have no say in the matter anyway. They were either doing what they were told or they would suffer the consequences in their own country, which is typically not very good. You have to consider that most people choose the alternative of going to war and possibly dying rather than refusing to go, which gives you a pretty certain idea of what's going to happen if they refuse. So being made an item of public debate is talking about, making it part of public discourse, which is exactly what this CNN video does. So they don't show their video footage. They're still talking about it. They're still using it as a means of pulling at some heartstrings. They're using another human suffering to justify their storyline and ultimately to make their storyline right, to make it proper, to make it true. And that's the full intention of the Geneva Convention, to prevent all this. Because you get a prisoner talking, and you can get them to talk. A prisoner will talk. And what consequences are they going to suffer after the war is over and they return back to their home country? And the prisoner has to evaluate. I can suffer consequences now, or I can suffer them later. Which leads to the next one. Duress. They brought it up. Do you think these prisoners were under duress? How can you be a prisoner in any situation and not be under duress? You have had your freedom taken from you. That, for me, would put me under duress. Now, you add to the mix, as the CNN producer said, there were members of the security force inside the room with loaded weapons and masked faces. They were wearing balaclavas. So, as a prisoner, can anyone possibly fathom that you could say this prisoner is not under duress? It is absolutely stupid for anyone to imply otherwise. Anyone in that same situation is going to feel under duress. So, discount that. Of course they're under duress. They're being interrogated by an international news corporation, knowing that it's going to go out to the world. That's not right. And I guess my last point on this is, how does CNN know that these are actual prisoners of war, actual enemy combatants that were captured and taken prisoner? How do they know this? They taken the good word of the capturers. They were led into a room and said, here's the POWs. Oh, nice. Let's talk to them. So there was probably very little diligence put into ascertaining that these people were actually prisoners of war. They could be anything, right? We don't know, but there's certainly been actors sent to higher roles than to act like they're from an opposing army and being held prisoner. There's just no way. There's no way for CNN to confirm that what they're being told is true. All CNN wanted was the sound bites. They wanted the story so they could go out and tell it. And they wanted to make sure that their story fit their storyline. And they got it. All of this together says exactly why it's a war crime to do this to a POW. You're just using this person in an inhumane way to coerce them to say something they wouldn't otherwise say, and you're using it for your own storyline. That's why it's wrong. Americans, we would not want the rest of the world thinking this is good. This is the way you should treat your opponents. If you capture some Americans in war, you should treat them like this. Put them in a room full of soldiers and make them say what you want them to say, or else. It's not good. There's a reason why these laws exist. There's a reason why we used to have news agencies that would not cross that line. This was crossing the line. Despicable, inhumane. I don't care who's fighting who. It's wrong to go out, violate international law for your own profit. Shame on CNN. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. Do you think would you agree with me on this, that it was foul behavior on the part of CNN? Or do you see it differently? I'm open to opinions. I'm open to your point of view. I think that's how the world gets a lot better, by people being open to other people's points of view, considering it. You can stay with your own point of view, but you should at least consider someone else's. So let me know down below. Give me a comment. If you like what you saw today, please consider subscribing. Hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.